find out what the interests of people are and try to balance them, because that's what legislation should be all about.
What you have to look at is how the light rail has transformed Charlotte.
We always want to be out front, showing what can be done.
We govern best when more people have a voice.
Thank you for watching the show. You be encouraged.
This evening, my guest will be Miss Cheryl Richards. How you doing there, Miss Richards?
I'm fine. How are you?
Great. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts. I do say park the car in Harvard Yard.
You got to have an accent still with you.
And I moved here in 2008. I kneeled at my bed and told God I wanted to move. And I said, where do you want me to move? And he said, North Carolina. So here I am.
Glad to have you. Cheryl, can I call you Cheryl?
You can.
You wrote a book. Tell the audience a little bit about your book.
So I wanted to write a book my whole life. It was my biggest dream in life to write a book. And one day I just took down some paper and I prayed over the paper and I said, God, you write this book. And in 2 days I was done.
2 days?
2 days.
What's the title? What's the name of the book?
The book is called Surviving Bipolar Through God's Grace.
How'd you come about with that title?
Find out what the interests of people are and try to balance them, because that's what legislation should be all about.
What you have to look at is how the light rail has transformed Charlotte.
We always want to be out front, showing what can be done.
We govern best when more people have a voice.
Thank you for watching the show. You be encouraged.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting episode of Paul Brown Show. This evening, my guest will be Miss Cheryl Richards. How you doing there, Miss Richards?
I am blessed, highly favored, and deeply loved.
Hey, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts. I say park the car in Harvard Yard. I have that accent.
You still got that accent.
And I moved to Charlotte in 2008. One day I was cleaning out my closet and I said, God, I want to move. Where do you want me to move? And I knelt by my bed and waited. And he said, North Carolina. So here I am.
I know you're from that New England, sound like that New England. Are you a New England patriot or a Carolina Panther fan?
When I was fasting, God told me to give up the Patriots. So I ripped all the stickers off my car. I gave my Tom Brady jersey to the Goodwill, and now I'm a Cam Newton fan. Go Panthers.
Go Panthers. Go Panthers. Cheryl, you wrote a book. Tell the audience a little bit about your book.
Well, it was my biggest dream in life to write a book. And I prayed over the paper one day, and I said, God, you write this book. In 2 days, I was done. That's not me. That's all God. Then I said, God, you send everybody. I don't know what to do. He sent everybody. It's on Amazon.
What's the name of the book?
The book is called Surviving Bipolar Through God's Grace.
Surviving Bipolar by Grace.
Through God's Grace.
Through God's Grace. How'd you come about getting that title?
Well, I came up with that title because bipolar is something, first of all, that's a lie from the devil. I don't have bipolar. I never had bipolar. And you have to survive it, because a lot of times people will dub that on you. They'll label it on you, especially your family. When you're first diagnosed with that, they'll be calling ambulances and everything else. I've been in about 52 mental hospitals. I'm like, good, keep putting me in here. I lead people to Christ in there. The food is great. I'm like, keep locking me up. You know what I'm saying? So I just believe, I'm a Christian, and I know that everything can be healed. I have received my healing from that. And I don't go walking around saying anymore, I have bipolar. I don't have anything. God is a healer, and he has healed me.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Cheryl. To some of the audience that may be out there trying to figure out, what is basically bipolar? What is that?
Well, they say it's a chemical imbalance in the brain. I wasn't born with a chemical imbalance. It says in Psalms 139, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. I was fearfully and wonderfully made. I watched my mother die right in front of me when I was 19 years old. That was a very traumatic thing for me to go through. And I couldn't get out of bed. My father was extremely worried about me. And he's like, you have to go see someone. You have to go see someone. He was, I was crying all the time and everything. So I did go to see someone. When I went to see that therapist, all they did was talk bad about my mother. I came home and I was like throwing the pocketbook down the stairs and everything else because I went to that therapist, and that's what they said. And that's how they put me in a mental hospital. And I'll never forget when I went in there, I was like, oh my God, am I ever going to get out of here? Like, I thought I was in there for the rest of my life. I picked up a chair, this is in the book, and went to throw it through the window. And they jumped at me and slammed my head into the floor and everything else. As a matter of fact, when I was in a hospital recently in North Carolina, I spoke in tongues, and these nurses surrounded me, punched me right in the face. I have a scar here on my nose from that episode. They jumped on top of me. They were beating me up. I was screaming Jesus. They were like, we don't want to hear about your Jesus. As they were beating me up, I had 10 bruises all over my body. When they got off of me, I was laying there. My nose was blood. It was bleeding. A security guard handed me a tissue, and they dragged me into a quiet room and threw me there all night, freezing to death. And I had another episode in Boston, Massachusetts. I kept telling the people, you're giving me too much medication. I was feeling woozy and everything else.
Correct.
The next thing you know, my legs collapse. I'm on the floor. I'm bleeding from my elbow, and I have a scar now on my elbow. So I have 2 scars now on my body from 2 of these different mental hospitals. So I get out and I call every lawyer. We don't take on those cases. So we're being beat up in there. We're being abused in there. I made the nurses. I went in the back room. They marked all the 10 bruises on my body on a piece of paper. Someone went in, the paper disappeared. So there's things going on in those hospitals that, we have no rights. We can get beat up anytime we want in those places. And I'm a very intelligent woman. I got straight A's in school. Okay. I took down minute by minute until I got beat up. So I have all the records and everything. I have a big file. My father was a police officer. Mm-hmm.
Now, Cheryl, is all this in your book, or what basically goes, your book?
Well, the first book was just detailing watching, my mother die, finding my father on the floor, he died, watching my best friend die, watching my brother die. I was out clubbing, drinking, dating athletes and all that stuff. That's all in the first book. Okay. But since then, I've written 3 more books. I'm working on a children's book now. It's called Ella's First Day at First Grade. It's a Christian book. I wrote another book called Prophetess Kazia. And then my 3rd book that I'm writing is a sequel to the one now, because everybody's begging me for the sequel. They were like, we couldn't put your book down. We couldn't put your book down. Most people read it in one day. It's a 4-hour read. So the next book is called Dreams Come True, Trusting God's Promises. And I did detail that stuff that happened in the hospitals with me being beat up. That just happened recently.
Okay. I know you talked a lot about your mother. What do you miss most about your mother?
Everything. Everything. I look exactly like her, which is a blessing, but my mother was my best friend, and it details all that in the book. I had a hard time growing up with kids teasing me, girls stealing my stuff, all that stuff, and my mother was like the only person. She was my rock. She was always there for me. So when she got breast cancer and she died at age 54, which is a young age to die, we had spoke about it. I said, I want to be in the room with you. And she said, oh, I don't know, Cheryl. I said, I have to be. So I watched her die alone with her when I was 19 years old. And I am grateful for having that special moment with her. But it was difficult. But, after I gave my life to Christ, and now I'm so strong in the Lord and everything, I'm grateful I had the mom that I had, and the father. My father was wonderful, He was a police officer. He always took care of me. He was always, there right beside me. So I had 2 wonderful parents.
As you live this life without your parents, if they will always be here with you, what would you want to say to them?
Thank you. Thank you for the way you raised me. Thank you for raising me in church. Thank you for giving me that strong foundation. When I lost my parents, God gave me 2 new parents, and Bishop Gideon Thompson in Boston, Massachusetts, and his wife, Sister T, and also a woman named Deacon Naomi. They came into my life and they became my parents. So when I got saved at Jubilee Christian Church, I just got so much love from them, and I learned so much from Bishop Thompson and his preaching, and they just all loved me at Jubilee. So I'm just grateful for all of that.
You seem to be enjoying life. What is it about life that Cheryl loves the most?
Being an evangelist. I love being an evangelist. I love going out, talking to people, praying with people, leading people to Christ. I always go to Uppercuts Barbershop, and I was in there preaching away to all the barbers, and they all love me in there, and now they're all playing Praise 100.9 in there. So I absolutely loved, the time in there, preaching away in there, and I just love being an evangelist.
You talk a lot about God. Why is it so important to have God in your life?
Oh, God is my everything. I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is get in my closet and just pray away to Him. And He's my husband, He's my doctor, He's my lawyer, He's my judge, He's my Boaz, He's my boo, He's my everything. I couldn't make it in this life without God. My dream is to pastor a church. That's what I want to do. And I just love, He's just my everything. I couldn't make it without God.
Now, I know you talked about bipolar. Can it be healed?
Yes, absolutely. I've been healed of it. Absolutely, anything can be healed. Cancer, leukemia, diabetes, AIDS, anything. He's a healer.
So God healed you.
Yes.
That's an awesome feeling, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I know He would do it.
Cheryl, when you look in the mirror, who do you see?
Well, it's funny. I listened to this woman on YouTube named Terry Seville Foy, and from watching her, I look in the mirror every day and I say, you're a child of the Most High God. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. You're God's queen. You're the head and not the tail. You're above and not beneath. I know I'm all those things. And from watching her inspirational videos every single day, it's really lifted my spirits and given me a lot of confidence.
There's so much in life worth living for. We take for granted how important it is to really live life on life's own terms.
That's right.
Why is it so important for Cheryl to live life on life's own terms?
It's important for me to live life according to the Bible. I mean, I live and breathe and walk and talk that word. And that's what I'm down here for. I'm down here to win souls to Christ. I'm not down here for myself. I'm down here because there's so much going on in the world with the earthquakes and the shootings and all these different things happening. And these are the last days. So people need to know Jesus Christ, and they need to give their lives over to Him, because soon He's going to blow His trumpet and He's going to, come and crack the skies. And I want everybody to be able to go with Him.
What would you say about all the, we have a lot of killings going on, we have a lot of turmoil. What would you say to people today, who feel like they have to commit violence in order to live a life?
What I would say to those people is, there's God and there's the devil. There's two forces in the world. The devil makes you do bad things. God doesn't. So you have to choose, who do you want to follow? Do you want to lead that righteous life, or do you want to go down that wrong path, and do you want to follow the enemy? There's only one choice, and that's to follow God.
That's the only way.
Mm-hmm.